I never should have opened that envelope. For 3 years, I'd been leaving $20 bills in my mailbox every month for Rita, my mail carrier. A little gratitude for her reliability, her kindness, the way she always made sure my packages never got damaged. She'd wave through my front window, sometimes leave a cheerful note about the weather. It was one of those small-town connections that made life feel a little less lonely. But that Tuesday morning, everything changed. The note taped to my front door was written in Rita's familiar handwriting. But the words made my blood run cold. Stop leaving me money. They're watching you. Burn this note. Trust no one at the post office. My hands trembled as I read it again. The autumn air suddenly felt suffocating. What did she mean? They're watching? Who were they? That's when I noticed the black sedan parked across the street. The same one that had been there for the past 3 days. The driver was wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky, and he wasn't even pretending to do anything else. He was just watching my house. I stumbled backward into my house and locked the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. The note crumpled in my fist as I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. This had to be some kind of mistake, some misunderstanding. I'd moved to Millbrook, Pennsylvania 2 years ago after my divorce, looking for a fresh start in a place where nobody knew me. I worked remotely as a software consultant, kept to myself mostly, never caused trouble. The only unusual thing about my life was that I paid all my bills in cash and kept my savings in a safe in my basement instead of a bank. After my ex-wife had cleaned out our joint account during the divorce, I developed a healthy distrust of financial institutions. But that couldn't be what this was about. Could it? I moved to my living room window and carefully pulled back the curtain. The sedan was still there. As I watched, the driver lifted something to his face, binoculars or a camera. I couldn't tell which. My phone buzzed, making me jump. Unknown number. Don't answer your door today. Rita's voice was barely a whisper when I picked up. I can't talk long. Meet me at the old grain elevator on Route 49 at midnight. Come alone. Make sure you're not followed. Rita, what's going on? Who are those people? You have something they want. Something you didn't even know you had. The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, my mind racing. Something I had? I mentally cataloged my possessions. A 10-year-old laptop, basic furniture, some books, my dead father's vinyl record collection that I'd inherited last year, the records. My father had died 14 months ago, and his entire estate had been shipped to me, including 73 boxes of vintage vinyl records he'd collected over 50 years. I'd been slowly going through them, but most were still packed away in my basement. Could there be something hidden in that collection? Before I continue, I want to know, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city and state in the comments below. I love seeing where my stories are reaching. Are you listening to this at work, on a road trip, or late at night like me when I can't sleep? Let me know. The rest of that day crawled by like molasses. I kept the curtains drawn and tried to act normal, but every sound made me flinch. The black sedan never moved. Around 3 in the afternoon, a postal truck pulled up. Not Rita's usual truck, but a different one. A man I'd never seen before got out, heavy-set with a crew cut, wearing a postal uniform that looked slightly too small for him. He didn't walk like a mail carrier. He walked like someone who'd done military training. He came up to my door and knocked. Hard, authoritative raps that demanded attention. I didn't answer. Through the peephole, I watched him stand there for a full minute before he finally walked back to his truck. But not before glancing at the black sedan and giving a subtle nod. They were working together. My mouth went dry. Rita had said to trust no one at the post office. How deep did this go? I spent the afternoon tearing through the vinyl records in my basement, opening every box, checking every sleeve. Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, the Beatles, Patsy Cline. My father's collection was impressive, but nothing seemed unusual. I was about to give up when I found it. Inside a sleeve for an obscure 1967 jazz album called Midnight Conversations by the Milton Ellis Quartet. There was something that didn't belong. A small brass key, taped to the inner sleeve, and underneath it, a handwritten note in my father's shaky late-stage handwriting. Danny, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I got you involved. Safety Deposit Box 347. First National Bank of Pittsburgh, Downtown Branch. The truth about what happened in '89. They'll come for it eventually. Stay safe, Dad. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the key. 1989. I would have been 4 years old. What truth? What had my father been involved in? A loud crash upstairs made me freeze. Someone had broken my kitchen window. I grabbed the key and shoved it in my pocket, then quietly made my way to the basement's exterior bulkhead exit. A relic from when this house was built in the 1950s. I could hear footsteps above me now, heavy boots on my hardwood floors. Multiple people moving through my house with practiced efficiency. I eased the bulkhead door open and slipped out into my backyard just as I heard them start down the basement stairs. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the neighboring yards. I stayed low and moved quickly, cutting through Mrs. Henderson's garden, then through the vacant lot behind the hardware store. I made it to Main Street and ducked into Bernie's Diner, trying to look casual despite my racing heart and the dirt on my jeans. The place was half full with the usual dinner crowd, retirees mostly, and a few families. I slid into a booth in the back corner where I could watch both the door and the street. "You look like you've seen a ghost, hon," Donna, the waitress, said as she poured me coffee I didn't order. "Rough day," I managed. "Can I get a burger?" "Sure thing. You okay?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Through the window I could see a white van crawling down Main Street, the kind with no windows in the back. It stopped directly across from the diner. My burger arrived, but I couldn't eat. I kept checking my watch. 6 hours until I was supposed to meet Rita. 6 hours to figure out what my father had been involved in, and why people were willing to break into my house to find. What? A key to a safety deposit box? I pulled out my phone and did something I probably shouldn't have. I searched for First National Bank Pittsburgh 1989 incident. The results made my blood run cold. The top article was from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette archives. FBI investigates First National Bank after $47 million disappears. 3 bank officials dead in apparent murder-suicide. I clicked through to the full story. In August 1989, $47 million had vanished from the bank's central vault during a weekend when the security system was supposedly malfunctioning. 3 bank officials were found dead the following Monday. The police report said one official killed the other 2 and then himself, but the article hinted at inconsistencies that investigators had found troubling. The case was never solved. The money was never recovered. And according to the employee roster listed in the article, one of the bank security consultants working there at the time was named Daniel Carlson, my father. I sat back in the booth, my mind reeling. My father had been involved in a $47 million heist? No, that couldn't be right. My father had been a straight arrow his whole life, worked as a security consultant for various companies, retired quietly, lived modestly. He couldn't have, but he'd left me that key, and that note. The truth about what happened in '89. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear how this all plays out, hit that subscribe button right now. This is exactly the kind of edge-of-your-seat content I bring to this channel every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The next twist is going to blow your mind. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Now back to the story. "That your phone?" Donna asked, pointing to the buzzing cell on my table. Unknown number again. I stepped outside through the back door into the alley before answering. "You need to run. Right now." It was Rita and she sounded terrified. "They have facial recognition in the diner. You have maybe 2 minutes before they box you in. Run north through the alley. There's a green Subaru parked behind the Methodist church. Keys under the driver's mat. Go." "Rita, what?" "Box 347. Your father was trying to protect you. He was going to expose them, but he ran out of time. The key is proof. Now go." The line went dead again. I looked up just in time to see 2 men in dark suits entering the front of the diner, their eyes scanning the room with predatory focus. I ran north through the alley, my lungs burning, my feet pounding on the cracked asphalt. Behind me I heard shouts. They'd spotted me. I vaulted over a chain-link fence, landed hard, kept running. The Methodist church's white steeple was visible above the roofline ahead. The green Subaru was exactly where Rita said it would be. I yanked open the door, found the keys, and my hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The engine turned over just as the two suited men rounded the corner into the parking lot. I floored it, the tires squealing as I shot out onto Oak Street. In my rearview mirror, I saw them running back toward their vehicle, already pulling out phones. I had maybe a 10-minute head start before they coordinated and caught up with me. Route 49 was the opposite direction from where I was heading, but I couldn't lead them to Rita. I needed to lose them first. For the next hour, I drove like a maniac through the back roads of rural Pennsylvania, taking random turns, doubling back, cutting through a cornfield at one point that probably destroyed the Subaru's undercarriage. Finally, I was reasonably sure I'd lost them. At 11:45 p.m., I pulled up to the old grain elevator on Route 49. It loomed against the night sky like a monument to agricultural decline, its concrete silos crumbling and covered in graffiti. Rita's mail truck was parked behind it, barely visible in the darkness. I approached cautiously, every nerve on edge. Rita. She emerged from the shadows, and I barely recognized her. Her usual cheerful demeanor was gone, replaced by something hard and frightened. "You found the key." It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Your father was a good man," she said quietly. "One of the best. In 1989, he was hired by First National Bank to update their security systems. What he found was a conspiracy that went all the way to the top: bank executives, FBI agents, even a senator. They were laundering money for organized crime, using the bank systems to make it disappear. The $47 million was never stolen. It was moved, hidden, waiting to be discovered years later as legitimate assets. Your father documented everything: account numbers, wire transfers, meetings he observed. He created an insurance policy. Evidence stored in that safety deposit box, with instructions that it be opened if he died under suspicious circumstances. But he died of a heart attack. Natural causes. Rita's expression was grim. Did he? The medical examiner was a man named Phillips. He retired to the Cayman Islands a month later. Very sudden, very wealthy. The implications hit me like a physical blow. They killed him. They couldn't get to the box. Your father set it up so only a direct blood relative with the key could access it. They've been watching you since he died, waiting for you to make a move toward that key. When you started tipping me with cash every month, it triggered something in their surveillance. Large, regular cash transactions, especially ones that avoided digital records. They thought maybe your father had told you something. But he didn't. I don't know anything about any of this. Doesn't matter. You have the key. And that makes you the most dangerous person in their world. Rita pulled out a thick manila envelope from her jacket. Everything you need is in here. New identity documents, credit cards with clean history, $5,000 cash. Instructions for accessing a secure email account where I've forwarded all the information I have on this conspiracy. You're helping me run? I'm a federal agent, Danny. DEA, working undercover on a completely different case in Millbrook when I stumbled onto this. Your mail route was my cover. When I saw the surveillance on your house and ran your name, I connected you to your father. She pressed the envelope into my hands. That safety deposit box contains evidence of financial crimes involving millions of dollars and dozens of people. Some of them very powerful. You need to get that evidence, copy it, and release it somewhere they can't bury it. WikiLeaks, multiple news agencies, everywhere at once. Why don't you do it? Because officially, I don't exist in this context. My agency can't be involved without triggering a jurisdictional nightmare. But you're a civilian with a legitimate right to your father's property. You can access that box legally. She glanced over her shoulder nervously. But we need to move. I led them off your trail, but they'll figure it out eventually. We drove through the night, taking back roads toward Pittsburgh, switching vehicles twice using cars Rita had prepositioned. She explained that the conspiracy had evolved over the years. The original players were mostly dead or retired, but new ones had filled their positions, continuing to use the systems my father had discovered. Billions of dollars had flowed through their network in the decades since. Your father's evidence is from 1989, but it establishes the foundation of the system, Rita explained as we merged onto I-376, Pittsburgh's skyline finally visible in the distance. Once that foundation is exposed, modern investigators can trace the current networks. It'll bring down 50 people, maybe more. We reached downtown Pittsburgh at 4 a.m. The streets were nearly empty, just a few delivery trucks and a street sweeper. First National Bank's downtown branch was an imposing stone building that looked like it had been there since the city's founding. The safety deposit boxes are in the basement vault, Rita said. There's a night security guard, Tom Wilson. Been there 20 years. Takes his break at 4:15 a.m. like clockwork. We have a 15-minute window. Everything went according to plan. The guard left for his break, we entered through a service entrance Rita had the code for, made it to the vault. Box 347 was there, waiting like a time bomb that had been ticking for 36 years. The key turned smoothly. Inside was a leather document folder, surprisingly thin. But when I opened it, I understood why my father had died for this. Bank transaction records, photographs of meetings, audio cassette tapes labeled with dates and names, and a handwritten ledger in my father's meticulous printing, documenting everything he'd witnessed. "We need to go," Rita said urgently. "Copy everything at the safe house, then." The vault door slammed shut. We spun around to see 6 men in tactical gear, weapons drawn, and standing in front of them was an older man in an expensive suit. His silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. "Daniel," he said, smiling pleasantly. "You look so much like your father." He was a stubborn man. "I hope you're more reasonable." "Senator Westbrook," Rita said quietly, recognition in her voice. "Special Agent Reeves. Or should I say Rita the mail carrier?" Very creative cover. His smile never wavered. "I'm afraid this is where your investigation ends. Both of you are going to have a tragic accident. A gas leak, perhaps. So unfortunate." My mind raced. We were trapped in a bank vault with armed men. The evidence was in my hands, but it wouldn't matter if we were dead. Then I remembered Rita's phone. I'd seen her recording earlier, almost unconsciously, habit from her undercover work. "It's already too late," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Everything in this box has been streaming to 5 different news organizations for the past 3 minutes. Kill us, and you just confirm everything my father documented." It was a bluff, but Westbrook's smile faltered. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Check your phone. Check the news. My father taught me about insurance policies too." For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then one of the tactical team members' phones buzzed. Then another. Westbrook pulled out his own phone, and I watched the color drain from his face. "Sir," one of the men said quietly, "CNN just posted breaking news. Bank scandal, your name is mentioned." Rita had actually been streaming. I could see her phone, still recording, tucked into her jacket pocket where she'd positioned it when we entered the vault. The next few hours were chaos. Real FBI agents arrived, then federal prosecutors, then reporters. The tactical team scattered, but most were caught. Senator Westbrook tried to run and made it as far as the parking garage before being arrested. The evidence in box 347 was everything Rita had promised. The foundation of a conspiracy that had operated for over 3 decades, evolving and adapting but built on the same corrupt systems my father had discovered in 1989. 47 people were eventually indicted. The trials lasted 2 years. As for me, I testified, then disappeared into witness protection for a while. Eventually, the threat level dropped enough that I could resume something resembling a normal life. I moved to Montana, changed my name legally this time, started over again. But I still think about my father, about how he'd carried that burden alone for so long, knowing the truth but unable to expose it without putting his family in danger. He'd created that insurance policy, hidden the key where he knew I'd eventually find it, and trusted that I'd do what he couldn't. I visit his grave once a year, always checking to make sure I'm not followed, always leaving early before anyone else arrives. Last time, I left a note tucked under a stone. "Mission accomplished, Dad. You can rest now." And sometimes, Late at night, I think about Rita showing up at my door with my mail, leaving those cheerful notes, all while watching over me and investigating one of the biggest financial conspiracies in American history. Heroes come in unexpected forms. I never leave tips for my mail carrier anymore, but I always make sure to thank them personally, because you never know who might be watching, and you never know who might be watching them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. I post new stories every week. Drop a comment and let me know what you thought. Was this twist worth the wait? See you in the next one.